Hi, where are you? Where in the world are you now? Are you here or are you back in Israel?
Uh,
Right.
be back. Please God, maybe after the Chagim.
Oh, okay. So I hear your son just bought a house from the Webbers.
About a month ago.
That's very nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. For sure.
I saw Tali Weber yesterday. She wanted to say goodbye.
Yeah. A lot of holiness in the house. A lot of good things happen.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we had started this tshuva yesterday. A person borrows a sefer to study from, and the question uh, uh, and then some onus, some complete mishap occurs completely out of the control of the borrower, and the safer is destroyed or lost. Is the borrower liable? So the Ran wants to argue that when you borrow something that is for a mitzvah, uh, then since mitzvahs lav lehanos nitnu, so, I'm sorry. The Ron's argument is that the lender is getting benefit because someone's learning Torah with his sefer. So, because there's benefit to both the borrower and the lender, the borrower is not going to be liable for own sin because now he's more reduced to the level of let's say a socher, a renter, who's only liable for Geneva Vaveda, for loss and theft, but he's not liable for a complete onus. Now, the Machane Ephraim says that the fact that this guy is doing a mitzvah with my sefer um, is only when he's learning from it. But if he's not learning from it, then I'm not benefiting in any way. So then it would turn out that he's only going to be putter if an onus happened while he was actually learning from it. But then the Machane Ephraim says that there's a different reason why the shol will be putter because mitzvahs lav lehanos nitnu. Mitzvahs were not given to for benefit. So all of the Torah learning that the borrower is getting is not considered a real hana, is not considered a real benefit because it's a spiritual benefit, it's not a physical benefit. And therefore, that too is, since he's not benefiting in the conventional sense, we don't hold him liable because the shoel is only liable because he's getting benefit. Now, let's continue. He says, "V'chein kosav haktzos hachoshen dekevin dekol hachiv shel hashol ba'onsen mishum shekol hana shelo." The Ktsos writes as well that when a person borrows a sefer, the reason why normally a shoel is liable for onsen is because he's the one who's getting sole benefit. Ainu dafka b'shar chafatzim. That's only with other items of all adam sheshol sefer lilmod bo ein l'shol hanos mamon. He says, but when a person borrows a sefer, he's not getting real financial benefit. It's an intangible benefit that's of a spiritual nature. Kevin shuhu osa mitzvah shuhu lomed bo v'kaimel mitzvahs lav lehanos nidnu. And we paskin that what the hana that you get from a mitzvah is not considered hana from a halachic standpoint. Okay, the afal gabshi im adam asar esfar bal chaver shelo yehne bahem asar lanesar lilmod bahem v'lo omer mitzvah slav lehanos nitnu. What about the fact that if a person makes a vow, he makes a vow and he says, all of my svarim are usher to Shimon. Okay. So if a person makes such a vow, is Shimon allowed to learn from those svarim? The answer is no. So what about the fact that it's not called a real hana? It's not a tangible benefit. Sham hatam hu dekivin shahasfarim miyuadim lahaskara v'hasfarim miskalkalim belimud bahem. He says that's for a different reason. He says because books can be leased out. Sometimes a person has a library and he'll charge people to let them borrow his books. And I don't want Shimon to use my books because he could there's wear and tear when he's going to borrow them. Zeh shalomed bechinam nikra hana'a bishvilo. So therefore, by you using my svarim at a time when I could potentially get benefit or like make money off of them, Ruvain's arguing, I have a right to prohibit you from accessing my books so that I can go ahead and lease them out instead. But as far as Shimon's benefit that he gets when he's learning the Sefer, that halachically is not considered real benefit. It's not tangible benefit. It's of a spiritual nature, and therefore he's not going to be liable as a shoel for onsin because he's not getting real benefit.
If I can ask a couple of questions on this benefit from
Yeah.
learning, because it's kind of one point is like very recent, and the other is just something I learned along the way. I thought you say we can't learn Torah on Tisha B'Av because it's a joy, it's a benefit.
Right.
So that's
No.
like
We don't say that because it's a benefit.
it's a joy.
We say because it provides us with happiness.
But isn't happiness a physical benefit?
No, it's not. It's an emotional state. Yeah.
And the other, fair enough. And then the other thing is something about while you're learning Torah, you're part of other mitzvahs. You don't have to give tzedakah and things like that. So,
Yeah.
So
So that's a different principle. Osek b'mitzvah, pater min mitzvah. When you're engaged in doing one mitzvah, you're exempt from doing another mitzvah. Correct.
So by learning this from the Sefer, you're now getting a physical benefit of not having to.
So you want to ask the question, isn't there a benefit to me that I'm getting a real benefit that whenever I'm engaged in a mitzvah, I can save myself the money of having to give tzedakah? Right. It's a good question, Paul. Why isn't that considered to be a benefit? Like we said by Hashava Saveda, that when I'm engaged in returning someone's lost object, I get a sense of benefit because I no longer have to attend to other mitzvahs of my body that I would normally have to do during that time, such as if someone comes to the door for soliciting for tzedakah, I don't have to give it to him. That's actually a very interesting question. It's a good question. Why do we don't say that when a person is engaged in Torah study, the fact that he is now exempt from having to do other mitzvahs makes him a sense of deriving benefit. So it could be that Torah study does provide you with benefit, but it's not the benefit from the Torah study itself. It's a side benefit. It's an indirect benefit that's not coming from the Torah study itself, not from the Sefer itself. So therefore, if we were to look at the liability of the borrower vis-a-vis the book that he's studying, we would still say you're not getting any direct benefit from that Sefer. The fact that you're getting a side benefit has nothing to do with that particular Sefer. I think that's what we would have to say. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Ubeshut bigdei yesha, kasav shahamitzvah shel Talmud Torah lo doma l'sha'ar mitzvah sha'adam mekayim. However, there's a sefer called Bigdei Yesha. He writes that the mitzvah of Torah study is not similar to other mitzvahs. The b'sha'ar mitzvahs anachnu omrim mitzvahs lav lehanos nitnu. With other mitzvahs, we say, well, it's not considered that you're getting real benefit from them while you're doing the mitzvah. Aval haTorah kevin shehi misamechet et halev k'moshe kasuv pikudei Hashem yesharim misamechei lev. Similar to what Paul was challenging. He says the Torah causes the heart to become joyful, as it says that the statutes of God are upright. Misamechei lev, give joy to the heart. Umitam zeh asr la'avil lilmod Torah. That's why a mourner is not allowed to study Torah, kevin shad Torah misameches oso, because it gives him joy. Lachein lo omrim bazeh mitzvahs lav lehanos nidna. So the Big Day Yesha says that really it is considered a benefit, like Paul was arguing, that we should say that since while he's learning Torah, he's getting pure benefit of the joy that it gives him, then he should be liable. Aval harav shar hamelach kasav behilchos shofar, shadas harambam sham kedas harashba, sha'af b'mitzvah sheyesh ba hanas haguf, anachnu omrim mitzvahs lav lehanos nitnu ayin sham. Apparently, the Rambam disagrees with that argument. Even when you're getting a tangible benefit from the performance of the mitzvah, you nonetheless it's not considered to be benefit because the mitzvahs were never given for that purpose. And therefore, whatever benefit you are getting in reality is discarded or is not reckoned with in halacha. V'lachein yesh lomer she'hamachne Ephraim b'aktzos hachoshen svira lehu tehu adin b'limud Torah damrinan ba mitzvahs lav lehanos nidna. And therefore, that would defend the position of those who say that Torah study is not considered a real benefit, and that's why when I borrow a sefer, I'm not going to be liable.
Maybe Rambam saying it pales in comparison to the spiritual benefits that you get. So it's almost.
I'm not sure how
so you
to.
don't get it at all
Hey,
because it wasn't given for that purpose.
yeah, I'm not sure what the argument is. I'm not sure if that's the argument or maybe it's something else. I don't know. But let's see. He says, "V'lachein lahalacha, kevin sheyesh machlokes haposkim beinyan sefer shenilkach bahash'ala v'nenas biyad hashoel im chayiv ba'onsen olo." So the bottom line is, there seems to be this machlokes that when a person borrows a sefer for Torah study, whether he's going to be liable in onus or not, I think that's a typo. It should be miyad hamuchzak. We cannot force the borrower to pay when an onus occurs, because we would say hamotzi mechavero olav haraya. That's the borrower can say, well, what about all of these poskim who say that I'm not a real shoel because the benefit that I'm getting is not real benefit, and so therefore I'm not going to pay you. Now let's take a look at the Makor Baruch on Dalid. He says, "V'chein pasku hagri ben Walid b'sefer vayomer Yitzchak." See, the benefit of learning a sefer like this is you get all of these very obscure svarim. I never heard of the Gri ben Walid. It must be
Arabic, doesn't it?
Yeah, well,
It doesn't sound Polish.
it certainly doesn't sound Polish. Yeah,
I know what that sounds.
yeah. Behavi shahabeis Yosef hevi es divrei haran bazel halacha ayin sham, and he cites the Beis Yosef, who cites the Ran lahalacha. Remember, the Ran had said that it's not just that there's really two arguments to be made here. One is that the borrower is not getting real tangible benefit, and the other one was from the Ran that the lender is getting as much benefit as the borrower because I'm able to do a mitzvah with my item, with my sefer. So therefore, I'm getting benefit as you're getting benefit. So we split the liability because we're both benefiting. V'chein kasav Rabbeinu Hagadol b'shut Yabia Omer shahashol yochel liton kimli kaharan de pater me'otzit. And Rav Vadya says the same thing. Ve'afal pi shahatumim v'hanesivos v'haktzos hachoshen v'haponimoni zahav kulu daiku midivrei morin de Shulchan Aruch shahashol sefer Torah pater rak mishum shemesa machmas malacha. Now, the Shulchan Aruch, however, seems to say not that way. The Shulchan Aruch seems to say that the only time that if you borrow a Sefer Torah and a mishap occurs to it, you're going to be a potter, is if it's in the course of the Torah reading. Like, let's say the guy's doing Hagbah and he rips the Sefer Torah while he's doing Hagbah. So then the borrower is potter because it was damaged in the course of its normal use, which is called Mesa Machmas Malacha. Umash, I've seen a Sefer Torah tear. It's very unusual. And by the way, that's the reason why when you do Hagbah, you have to find a seam and make sure that that's part of the exposed part of the Torah. Because if it does tear, it'll tear at the seam. And that's much easier. That's very easy to repair. Which seems to imply that if a mishap occurs not in the course of regular use, then you would be liable. And it therefore seems that the Shulchan Aruch is not paskening that way. Let's take a look. Where's this? This is Shin Mem Beis Sif Aleph. Let's take a look at that psak from the Shulchan Aruch. This is still really quite confusing to me, and to me it needs a lot of clarification. Here, let's see. So Shin Mem Beis, and we want the Torah Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat. Shin Mem Beis. Here we go. Ein hashol rashai lahashil. This halacha is regarding a shoel who wants to lend what he's borrowed to others. So the Shulchan Aruch paskins ein hashol rashai lahashil afilu shoal sefer Torah. The borrower does not have any right to lend out that which he has borrowed, even if he borrows a sefer Torah. Sha'osa mitzvah b'she'elaso, where he's doing a mitzvah with what he borrowed, he doesn't have a right to do that. Eino rashai lahashil la'acherim. V'im hishil la'acherim, and if he does so, afilu niskalkalu machmas hamalacha sheshalu b'shvila, even if it got damaged in the course of regular use, chayev, he's going to be liable. Ela im kein yesh lo raya sheyachol lipoter ba ilu haya biyada, unless he can bring proof that this would have happened, the same would have happened had he been using it.
But isn't that Mesa Machmas Malacha that just died in?
It is Mesa Machmas Malacha. So in other words, if he can prove that it was just the regular course of use, and if I had used that Sefer Torah instead, the exact same thing would have happened. If he can prove that, so then he's going to be potter. Commotion is barbarian.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
For example, like if you view, say, the Torah as being loaned or lent by what we've discussed the relationship in the past, and then somebody wants to take it, for example, to a shiva house.
Right.
So if the shul's borrower, are they allowed to even without second person lent out to the house of worship?
Well, it's interesting. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I would view that differently. When a person gives his Sefer Torah to the shul for use, he retains ownership of it, but he gives permission to the shul to use the Sefer Torah as a community Sefer Torah would be regularly used.
It's not a borrower relationship.
Well, I think it is a borrower-lender relationship, but even if we were to view it as a borrower-lender relationship, the shul is using it as a community Sefer Torah for the purpose that it was lent. In other words, it's implicit that when I lend my Sefer Torah to the shul's going to use it for upstairs, for downstairs, and for shivas, to give it out. I think the only time that you might have an argument is, let's say, the shul wants to use it for an unconventional purpose. not for a shiva house, but it wants to lend it out to another shul. The shul, like,
So that has to do with the-
yeah, I think that would be an interesting shaila. And I think it's a valid argument that the shul would not have permission to lend it out to another party that is, let's say, not in the course of a normal use of a shul sefer Torah, like lending it to another shul. I just had a shaila where a guy called me. There's apparently a sefer Torah in another shul in our community that he had dedicated, and he wanted to borrow it. He wanted to take it back for some use, and he wanted to know if he could borrow, if the shul could give that other shul a sefer Torah to use in its stead. That's because he's a member at our shul. That was his shaila, and I said, listen, I'd have to get permission, but the truth is, my family owns a sefer Torah that's here at the shul. I can give permission, and I can just lend out my family sefer Torah on a temporary basis.
So you are basically saying that you're getting around this.
Yeah, so you would have to get explicit permission from the owner of the sefer Torah. It seems that way. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So it's a good application of this halacha. The point that we're trying to draw from this is that the only time that a borrower is going to be patur, is when it's mesa machmas malacha, is when that's the only time that a shul is going to be patur. That seems to be what the Shulchan Aruch is arguing. So he says, let's see, what's this? Okay, well, anyway, let's go back to this. He says, Umashma demoran pasak. Oh, so umashma de imlo mesa machamas malacha chayiv ba'onsen. It sounds like from the language of the Shulchan Aruch that if it didn't get damaged in the course of natural use, normal use, then the shoal would be liable for even an onus. Umashma demoran pasak de lo kaharan. And therefore, it seems like the Shulchan Aruch is paskening not like the Ran. Ulefi divreihem hayalenu lechayves hashol b'nidon didan, kevin dief shaliton kimli neged maran Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, we should hold the borrower of a sefer liable. How can he say that I go against the Shulchan Aruch? If the Shulchan Aruch's psak is that a shoal is going to be liable in all onsin, even when he borrows a sefer, like a sefer Torah, so how can he wiggle out of that? Amnam liyashev divrei haposkim anal shapasku lalachik hidas aran. So how do we defend that? And how do we explain this according to those other poskim? Yesh lomar de kavanas hashulchan aruch sham haisa shebishoel shehishol sefer Torah l'shoel acher. He says it's only unique in that scenario where one borrower lent the sefer Torah to another borrower. He says, in that situation, the first shoal is going to be liable, even if it gets damaged in the normal course of use. The kol shekain the chayev b'sha'ar onsin ki over al das bal habayis b'ameh shehishilu la'acher. And then certainly he'll be liable for other onsin, because he violated the wishes of the owner of the Sefer Torah that he didn't consult with them before lending it out. Avola olam imlo hishilu harishon patur afilu me'onsin uchadas haran. But if the first borrower didn't lend it out, but he held on to it himself, then taka he might be patur in onsin. Ayin sham b'shulchan aruch v'dok. And that might be the more correct way of reading the Shulchan Aruch. V'chein matzanu b'pischei Choshen shetiret kushyas atumim v'aktzos the mashakasav b'Shulchan Aruch afilu niskalkel machmas malacha eno chozer al sefer Torah ela al mashakasav marim bereisha be'inyan hashalas kol hachafotzim ayin sham. And that seems to be the way that Rav Bloy learns the language of the Shulchan Aruch as well. That the Shulchan Aruch is not implying that you're only going to be potter if it was damaged in the course of normal use. Achar kasavnu kol zeh shuv re'inu b'sefer divrei binayahu she'erich b'nidon didan u'v'sof devarav kasav dekevin d'chol achronim anal kasav b'das marin d'lo sfir leik divrei haran anal ela shashol sefer chayiv ba'onsin al kein ein liton kimli karan neged maran hashulchan aruch u'delo kemo shekasav b'shut yabia omer hanal ad kan tochen devarav. So we've sort of opened up a can of worms because there's a sefer called Divrei Binayahu who disagrees with Rav Ovadia and says that no, the Shulchan Aruch does seem to be implying that you're only going to be potter for Mesa Machmas Malacha when it gets damaged in the course of normal use, but not if it, let's say, gets hit by lightning or the house goes up in flames and the Sefer Torah gets burned together with it, which would be a regular onus. So he says, you can't say that I don't paskin like the Shulchan Aruch. You are going to be chayiv in onsin if you borrow a sefer. But Rav Sharaga and holds otherwise, and he says that it's not necessarily the correct way to read the Shulchan Aruch, and therefore you could say that I paskin like the Ran, and therefore I'm not going to pay. Shuv matzanu b'shut yabia omer. I'm not sure what this abbreviation is. Im hagos ve'ha'aros o hanitfas mechadash. That was recently reprinted with footnotes. V'sham hevi Rabbeinu Hagadol Zatzal. V'sof tshuvas or shamas divrei b'nayahu hanal v'kasav v'yesh lahashiv al dvar v'lo bir kavanaso. And he writes, that the Rav Ovadia himself responded to the critique of the Divrei Binayahu, and therefore says that he maintains his psak. At the end of the day, the psak of Rav Sharaga, based on the psak of Rav Ovadia Yosef, is that when you borrow something like a sefer, where its sole function is to do mitzvahs with, there's a big machlokes as to whether we call you a genuine shoel or not, for one of two reasons. Either because the lender is benefiting in that he's enabling another person to do a mitzvah, or because the person borrowing the sefer is not getting tangible benefit, but rather mitzvah benefit, and mitzvah slav lehanos nitnu, and therefore, as a result, you are not treated as a standard shoel, but rather you are going to be potter from onsin, and therefore you're going to be off the hook. So, or you could at least say, I paskin like those people who say that I'm off the hook, even though there are other poskim who say that you're just as liable like any other shoel. And since it's a machlokes, the burden of proof is on the lender who's trying to extract money from you. Okay, doesn't seem to really sound fair, though, that that seems to be the bottom line. Now, first of all, I still don't have clarity. Anytime I lend out an object, I'm getting benefit because I'm doing a mitzvah with my items. Just by, let's say I lend out my lawnmower. Why am I not getting benefit by helping you have your lawn mowed? Am I not doing a chesed? And the very fact that I'm doing a chesed should be a benefit. So it's a little bit hard to understand this argument that only when I'm helping you do a mitzvah that I'm getting benefit.
It should be across the board.
Yeah, I have, so I still have some significant difficulty with this halacha. And I'm trying to figure out what the parameters are of, this argument. We're saying the lender is benefiting because he's helping another guy do a mitzvah. It's based on a pasuk in Ksuvos, V'tzidkaso omedes la'ad zeh shemashel svarav la'acherim. When you lend your svarim to other people, you're doing a mitzvah. So what about lending your lawnmower? Aren't you also doing a mitzvah? I'm going to try to research this at some point, and I'll let you know what I figure out, okay? For now,
Between a physical mitzvah and a spiritual mitzvah?
but here, I'm lending a guy a sefer, and he's going to be able to do a mitzvah with it, to learn Torah. So therefore I've done a mitzvah, so I'm benefiting from that mitzvah that I've done. When I lend a guy my lawnmower, I'm also doing a mitzvah of sharing my assets with other people so that they can benefit from them. That's chesed. Okay,
Maybe the Torah learning lasts forever if it has good memory. So if the grass grows up, it's gone.
okay.
Maybe learning Torah trumps all other mitzvahs. So what if we learn a book that's not?
Yeah. Especially what if it's a naughty book? Yeah.
Horses stuff.
He's done an Avera. Okay. Have a good shop.